You gotta love it when a new analytic comes out and it proves just how incompetent your franchise has been. That's exactly what happened with the Chicago Bulls. We're going to be looking at the NBA Purgatory Index and what that means for the Chicago Bulls and why it's important that the Bulls finally, uh, come hell or high water, need to choose a direction sooner rather than later. We're going to talk about all and more right after this.
You are now tuned in to Chicago Bulls Central, your number one place for all Chicago Bulls news and content.
What's going on, Bulls fans? Welcome to another episode of Chicago Bulls Central, your number one spot for everything Chicago Bulls related. I'm the host, Hayes, but more importantly, you guys can follow the channel at Bulls Central Pod on every social media platform we happen to be on. With that being said, let's go ahead and get into this content for today, y'all. And this is super concerning. So shout out to Will Gottlieb, who tweeted this out. There's an NBA Purgatory Index, which combines playoff wins plus picks in the top 5 of the draft, which highlights the fact that if you're not winning playoff games or if you're not picking in the top 5, you're stuck in NBA Purgatory. And the Chicago Bulls are actually at the top of this list, right along with the Detroit Pistons. I'm going to go ahead and share this now. Give me 1 second. Actually put this big. I'm gonna put this on the screen real quick so you guys can see that here. What this does right now, if for those that are able to see this, is that if you look at here at the top, this is playoff wins since 2016. The Chicago Bulls have a combined playoff win plus top 5 draft selections of 4 since 2016. Right, tied with them are the Detroit Pistons with 4 as well. They have no playoff wins, but they have 4 draft selections in the top 5. You got the Charlotte Hornets with 5 right there with them. They have a combined 5 playoff wins plus top 5 draft selections. Then you got the Sacramento Kings there with 6, the Orlando Magic with 7, the Brooklyn Nets with 8, all playoff wins, no top 5 draft selections. The Pelicans with 8, 7 playoff wins, 1 draft selection in the top 5. Then you get into the Washington Wizards that have 11 playoff wins since 2016, and the Memphis Grizzlies who have 13. But the Bulls sit right there in top. And you notice what's the difference between most of these teams is that the Bulls are the one that have 1 top 5 draft selection, and that top 5 draft selection was Patrick Williams. And that is a different concern when it comes down to this with this. But this highlights the fact that to be a team to actually have a direction, right? And for the Bulls fans that, sometimes I go back and forth with in the comment section that claim that the Bulls do have a direction, we do not. We are not winning playoff. We're not even getting playoff appearances, which is even kind of worse than that. We've had 1 playoff appearance in the last 6 years. And when you look at those 6 playoff wins since 2016, those all come from a different era. It just highlights the fact that when people talk about how much this team needs to try to keep their top 10 pick, to my Todds, to my Corns, to all that, this is why you hear that. It's a concerning stat and a concerning trend by the Chicago Bulls that they just don't sit in a place. So when you have your Bulls fans that look at this team and say, hey, but wait, right now we're almost the 8th seed. We're sitting at 9th. We could be tied for 8th. Okay, but do you see this team really getting playoff? It's not just about can you show up to the dance. It's about how well you compete. And the Bulls sit in a place now that even if for some reason, because of the week and the Eastern Conference and how close everything is in the Eastern Conference, even if you look at that, right? Even if you look at that, do you see this team really making any type of noise in the Eastern Conference? Do you see them? And keep in mind, I'm somebody who is adamantly against tanking. I'm adamantly against tanking. But I do think that the place that this basketball team has been in over the last few years where they compete, fight, and scratch just for playing appearances have actually hurt this team, right? And have the team actually been at the true place where they've been at and not try to make these moves to minorly stay competitive, that you could see this Bulls team in a completely different place right now because we could have some picks that we could have held on to. Now, we know that the Bulls gave up a lot of picks to put together the last version of the team. We have 2 first-round picks for Nikola Vucevic. We gave up a first-round pick for DeMar DeRozan. We gave up picks, right? And so because of that, the Bulls haven't really always had complete control over their first-round picks, which has led them to be in a place where we got to go for it all right now because, listen, if we don't, it is what it is. We're not going to get our pick regardless. And that just shows the complete mismanagement of the Bulls' assets that has continually been done over years. And that's the true problem where this team lies at. It's not just the team isn't making the playoffs. It's not just because the team isn't necessarily picking in the top 5. It's the combination between the two and the lack of mobility up really for this team. And that's the place that we've been in. That's the place that it seems like we're going to continue to be in. And to the point that Will Gottlieb made in his article is that, listen, if the Bulls are, with them going 7-6 over the last 13 games, if the Bulls don't start picking or choosing to make it more streamlined for them to keep their pick, we're going to be in the same place for the next decade. It's going to be another decade of just sitting around the middle. And that's what sucks when it comes down to this. Flockavelli says crazy because I just left a comment going over this. And the Purgatory Index, or just in general, the Bulls being stuck in the middle. I haven't seen the comment, but either way, you cooked on that. And that's the place where this franchise just continues to fail at. And it's not necessarily that it upsets me, right? Because that's not the case. But when you look back, like the Bulls, great wording here from Flockavelli. This is basically back to the Bulls are on a treadmill and we're not getting anywhere, right? We're not getting anywhere. And that's what continues. And that's not to say that there's not going to be some fun times. That's not to say we don't have some good players. That's not to say that the Bulls can't put together some wins. Those things are going to happen. But being in the middle for this long, you're not going to just magically get out the middle. You're not. And so even in like comments that I talk to with people like ATS and things, they're like, well, the Bulls can get better. Like, it's not, you got to keep in mind, like, where like, yes, Modest Bucilis is a great pick by the Chicago Bulls. And I think Modest Bucilis has that it factor. How much he develops, what level of player that he turns into, he could eventually be the type of player that maybe changes the direction of the Bulls. But let's be clear here. It's not going to, unless he turns into a superstar. Not just a star, a near superstar, the Bulls are still going to be in the middle. They're still going to be in the middle. And so the Bulls going 5-5 over the last 10. They're 4-2 so far to start the month of December with a tough stretch coming up. They sit right now at ninth in the Eastern Conference, right? Tied technically for 8th with the Indiana Pacers, depending on how that goes. This is a place where this team is going to continually sit at and is going to continually be a struggle. And it's really ugly to see that this just is continually being where this franchise is. This report just highlights how, because of Artūras Karnišovas and his real lack of direction, how it's just like the Bulls are back. We're right back in the same place we were in the Garpax era when they took over this team, right? And Artūras said that they didn't want to settle for mediocrity. What do you call that we've been in? We have been in mediocrity since this team took over, and we were, to their credit, before that as well. We are almost a decade at being in the middle, a decade of that. There are Bulls fans right now that all they know right now is struggle for the Chicago Bulls team. There's Bulls fans right now that the best that they've seen in their lifetime was the Derrick Rose era. And even then, that's starting to get fleeting. We're always going to remember that time fondly. But how much longer can you ride off that? Not very long at all. Flockavelli again, we just need a good actual reset. Doesn't mean get rid of everyone, but we need to get Vooch and Zach out of here so we can have space to be able to take some assets for bad contracts or be the third team. Well, we do have some room to do that now, but I don't disagree with what you're laying out here. Don't disagree with it. I'm not going to lie. A generational talent could help, but it's just like I feel like that could be risky as well due to the fact tanking ended up getting us the 7th overall pick. That's my word. Well, the problem with that, it's not that just having, because in this draft, the 7th overall pick can still be a talent that completely changes the direction of your draft, right? Of your team. But it's not just that, like, that team it wasn't just that they kept drafting 7th overall. It was the fact that they just were hoping that something stuck, and they didn't evaluate well. Speaking facts says front office will have to recoup the draft picks, especially with an owner that does not pay the luxury tax. Be wise with contracts they make as well. You have to be. That's the only way that the Bulls can be successful. And I know people always go to ownership, but I tell you this, right? And no hate to anybody. Y'all know Matt Peck is my boy. That I will never say anything bad about Matt Peck. But while he's somebody who says sell the team, and I get why he says that, I completely understand where Matt Peck is coming from and saying he wants to see them sell the team. It's never going to happen, right? And because of that, because it's not realistically going to happen that Reinsdorf sell this team, the thing that then has to happen is that you have to be extremely smart in drafting, in your contracts, and you have to plan it out, and you have to be diligent about the players that you draft and you spend draft compensation on. You have to. And that's the only path to success for this team. Same thing happened. Look, listen, Paxton, before Gar came in, built a really solid basketball team, a team that was consistently winning 40, 45 games, that did it through building a team smartly. But that team never was looked at as a contender until they got Derrick Rose. It took some luck, right? So even drafting well over time, you still need to get a little bit lucky to get shit done, but it puts you in a much better position to do it. I don't trust tanking to truly help the Bulls, though. As long as AK Mark Eversley are locked in with Billy Donovan, here you go. I'm sorry, Winton. I love you, bro, but you linking everything back to truly with Billy. You get talent regardless, right? You get talent regardless. To say that you like, I don't understand that. Like, everything ain't about Billy Donovan. You need the talent first, and the talent may put a highlight on other things, but you can't blame everything on Billy Donovan. I watched Boylan, Hoiberg, Cartwright, Skiles, etc. Laugh my ass off. Cartwright introduced me and tried me because they had Chandler and Curry. Bill could have trained them, but front office lost. I mean, listen, Skiles was a good head coach, and he just burnt out. He was real good. Hoiberg, I mean, he never had the team that he thought he was going to have, but he was incompetent at adjusting as well. Cartwright was okay, right? Vinny Del Negro was really good. We had Tom Thibodeau over that case. That was the highlight of the Bulls era for sure in this recent memory. This is a situation where you could be damned if you, but damned if you don't. Listen, you're damned now, right? And that's the thing. You're damned if, and you doing the same thing year after year, you're just going to continue to be damned. You got to try something different to eventually hope to get different results, right? You got to hope to do that. At this point, our only solace is we're not in NBA hell with the no. Honestly, that's not a solace, because here's what I'll tell you: the Wizards and the Hornets right now have a legitimate chance at getting Cooper Flagg, Ace Bailey, Dylan Harper. They have a legit chance. They may not get it, but at least they have a more clear path to, hey, maybe we can improve at some point in time. The Bulls right now, because we don't even have control over our own pick, we can lose the pick and walk away from this with a team that got eliminated from the play-in, and we don't have a pick in a deep draft, right? So at least those teams have a more right now. Listen, I don't trust the Wizards to turn it around, never. But if you're talking about the chances that they do, they have a bigger chance right now than the Chicago Bulls. Same with the Hornets, because at least the Hornets have LaMelo, they got Brandon Miller, and they can still wind up with a really good player in this draft. True H, but those teams at least have assets for a trade and at least luck into drafting someone great. Flaccavelli Pat came right up. Feels like if we get one or two high caliber players, we can make a dip playoff run with the crew we have now, besides people like Duarte and Javon Carter. I mean, there's always going to be players like that on every team. Like, there's players that just don't play on every team, right? Here's the play. Jordan informed all his Jordan brand athletes not to deal with the Bulls. I don't believe that. And even then, like, okay, you still got to draft well then. Dang, I didn't get the stream. Like, YouTube is real weird with stream notifications. Matt Peck's ownership POV is way off base, especially his boycott the team nonsense. Listen, everybody has the right to try to boycott or protest in the way that they want to. It's not something I say, because I just look at it. The Reinsdorfs aren't selling this team. Once Jerry Reinsdorf announces, what was it, the 1905 project, 1966, whatever the project is, where he's buying up a lot of stuff around the United Center and building that up, kind of like what the Bears want to do with Arlington Heights, but in downtown Chicago, they're never selling the Bulls. He's never said. And matter of fact, Jerry Reinsdorf even told his sons that when he dies, they could sell the Sox, but never sell the Bulls. The Reinsdorfs aren't selling the Bulls in any of our lifetime. Acme in the front office is terrifying to an extent. The roster construction leaves fans wanting and leaves the coaching staff in a shitty position. F Billy, but it's not necessarily his fault. I mean, some of it is in situational, but yeah, the roster construction isn't on Billy. This is one of those situations where you would hope that if we do trade Nikola Vucevic, let's get a low first round pick like 29th or 30th. It would be great if we could do that. I wish I knew what AK was thinking when he traded away all the draft capital he did. Promised a natural process of building a team and did a complete 180 and fucked the Bulls long. and he did it in less than 6 months. That's the thing that always confuses me so much about it. You came in and you said, we're going to build organically. We're going to build through the draft. We're going to build over time. We're going to build with young talent. In less than 6 months, I'm not mad at you trading Wendell. I'm not mad at you trading Daniel Gafford. But you went out and got a 30-year-old player in Nikola Vucevic, and then you immediately changed your timeline to get a 30-year-old DeMar DeRozan. You did get a young Lonzo Ball, but you immediately went against exactly what you said. Immediately went against it. Less than 6 months later. That's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. It's sad to see us in such a bad position. I grew up on D-Rose era. If we didn't do something, we won't end up with anything at the end of the season. Never even a great draft pick. And that's the sad state that the Bulls are in right now. It's a really sad state. Our best hope with the owners is that Michael gets greedy and sells, and he actually cares to win, and he gets caught in the Clippers type scandal. Well, A, he's not going to get in the scandal. B, he's not going to sell. And he's his father. Michael Reinsdorf is the same as Jerry. Keep in mind, Jerry's name is Michael Jerry Reinsdorf. He's the exact same as his father. Or is it Jerry? It may be Jerry Michael Reinsdorf. It's the same. He's not. He doesn't care. He's hands off. I had those same hopes that you did at one point. I was like, hopefully Michael comes in here. He's more passionate about the team. He grew up and came up during that time where the Bulls were winning titles, and so maybe he's going to want to bring that fire back. And it's really just the same. It's really just more of the same. And that's just what it is. That's just what it is. But like I said before, and I maintain this, the Reinsdorfs don't handle the day-to-day. They don't. As much as we blame the Reinsdorf, rightfully so, because if you had an owner that cared about winning more than anything, they'd fire motherfuckers quicker. But they don't handle the day-to-day. So it is more on Artūras as the president of basketball operations to get this shit figured the hell out. It just is. So they got to figure it out, man. And this path that we're on right now of mediocrity, it's just going to continue, and we're just going to be in the middle of the pack for the rest of our foreseeable future if the Bulls don't change something. So we'll see. We'll see. But thank you guys for tuning in, man. I appreciate you guys so much. Make sure you guys are following the show at Bulls Central Pod. You can send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns. bullcentralpod@gmail.com. Lastly, if you want to leave a text message and our voicemail for the mailbag, the number to do so, 773-270-2799. We are the number one spot for everything Chicago Bulls related, but that's thanks to you lovely and beautiful people. And like I like to end every episode on, go Bulls. Love you guys. See red if you can, y'all. Peace.
This has been a presentation of the Break Media.